In our news this morning, Governor Udomi Emmanuel announces new guidelines on appointment of permanent secretaries. State government sets November deadline for constitution of boards. Plus, Petroleum Products Monitoring Committee arrests 8 marketers for product hoarding and pump price violation. Details of this and more in a moment. Good morning and welcome to KDC for 5 News at Dawn. I am Blessing Isaroyo. Henceforth, appointment of permanent secretaries in the state civil service will be based on competence and qualification rather than on ethnic considerations or local government quota. Governor Udomi Emmanuel made this known at the October edition of the Government House monthly prayer meeting held at the Later House Chapel of the Governor's Lodge. Our Government House Bureau Chief Colonel Edemefreti reports.
Governor Udomi Emmanuel said all those seeking to be elevated to the position of permanent secretary in the state civil service should not gun for it on the back of ethnicity or local government quota. Mr. Udomi Emmanuel said such appointment will be based on a candidate's qualities and after having passed prescribed examination. He stressed that all should, in the spirit of Takada, rise above ethnic sentiments.
So as a step, we need to rise above so many things, especially ethnicity. It's a whole lot of things. When people come to my office, the first thing they want to balance is where they come from. And I try to ignore them. Because even those who send me text messages that they want to be permanent secretaries will start quoting. In Anna, we are this. In Ibibio, we are this. In this one, we are this. I just ignore. I keep saying to the head of service, I think I've made that known. Anybody who is going to be the next permanent secretary must pass through my office as an interview. And if you don't pass that interview, I won't make you permanent secretary. Because I'll go for quality, not on any ethnic sentiments. You must pass my interview. I must interview all that will make permanent secretary, irrespective of where you come from.
The governor also threw more light on the tax deductions, which he said had, among other issues, pitched labor unions against his government. He said that labor leaders had also tackled him on the issue of the last recruitment into the state civil service, adding that though a committee had been put in place to look into it, he would work hand in hand with labor to resolve issues that may hinder the progress of work in the state.
Personal income tax is a law. So you must implement the law. The disadvantage of not implementing that law is that the whole world will assume that you're too rich. You don't deserve grants. You don't deserve help. They will think you're too rich. If you look at most of the NGOs around the world, even when we apply, after all, you're giving rebates on personal income tax. Why should we support you? So we needed to let 64 million only, which is not material. So I thank the labor leaders who really understood. The problem wasn't with the leaders, it was with other followers. So they were able to assemble labor, we spoke to them, and they really understood.
The governor assured the people that every local government area will be given worthy consideration of at least having a chairman of a board. Colonel Edemefreti reporting.
Deputy Governor Moses Ekpo has been honored with the title of Eti-Eten Anang by the Akwa Ibom State Polytechnic chapter of the Anang Students Union. The investiture was a feature of the Anang Cultural Day, in which the Deputy Governor was the special guest of honor. Patience John has the details.
The Anang Cultural Day also featured the coronation of the 5th Akuko and Adada, as well as council members in the Polytechnic, receiving the award of Eti-Eten Anang. The Deputy Governor, represented by his press secretary, Mr. Ekikere Umo, thanked the students for their thoughtfulness in organizing the Cultural Day. The Deputy Governor advised them to imbibe virtues that will make them respectable members of the society and shun vices that could be detrimental to their progress.
The advancement of education is not supposed to deprive you of your knowledge of your culture. The government of Akwa Ibom made provision through the State Ministry of Culture and Tourism to partner with Afro-Food Monogo and stakeholders in develop the culture of Akwa Ibom.
The chairman of Abak Local Government Transition Committee, Barrister Emmanuel Udosin, and honoree who also chaired the occasion, urged the students to study hard to contribute to the industrialization of the state, which is the focus of the Udom administration.
Okay, we have done and may go out, and therefore I'm exhorting you to go out and replicate the same.
The rector of the institution, Mr. Israel Afia, and the state chairman of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, Elder Patrick Albert, were also honored by the Anang students. They advised the students to use the social media with caution and always use them to promote harmony and unity among all parts of the state.
Social media is an interactive platform to strengthen our unity. Some students of Anang, please be face setters. I book the one more again. I can understand for what you're saying. Many of us are going to
Patience Joe reporting.
In her continued strive to reach out to the vulnerable in society, the wife of the state governor, Mrs. Martha Udom Emmanuel, has toured prisons, children's homes, and destitute centers across Uyo and Eket senatorial districts. The visits were part of the activities of the pet project of Mrs. Martha Udom Emmanuel, the Family Empowerment and Youth Reorientation Program, FEREP. The report is presented in our studio.
The governor's wife visited the Lutheran Children's Home, Ikorotonsa, Sedibom Local Government Area, and St. Anthony's Destitute Center, Ransweet Uyo, where she donated foodstuff and other materials to inmates of the homes. Represented by the wife of the Speaker of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Mrs. Emema Bonguko, she urged the inmates of various centers to imbibe the Dakada spirit, which is centered on family morals, obedience to caregivers, respect for elders, as well as fear of God, in order to become good and worthy citizens. The governor's wife also charged the inmates of the homes to be of good behavior, self-reliance, and look unto the future with hope, and pray God to strengthen and make them productive citizens. She advised the inmate against indulging in unruly behavior that could be inimical to their future, and thanked the caregivers and staff of various homes for their continued labor of love.
I am here to encourage you that irrespective of the circumstances surrounding your birth, which you cannot control, but you can control your future. The power to change your future is in your hands.
Receiving the gifts at St. Anthony's Destitute Center, Uyo, Reverend Father Anthony Ekong appreciated the governor's wife's benevolence towards the home and prayed God to reward the governor's wife and guide them in the discharge of their duties. Meanwhile, inmates of Eket got a new lease of life when the wife of the state governor, Mrs. Martha Udom Emmanuel, donated cash, food items, and relief materials to the center. Represented by the wife of the Commissioner for Health, Mrs. Nelly Ukbong, Mrs. Emmanuel charged the inmates to believe in themselves, pointing out that life behind bars does not mean they cannot be productive citizens again.
What you have seen today, the thing that she's given to you, is just the beginning, is the tip of the iceberg. I believe that from time to time, you will feel her impact.
Earlier, the Chief Superintendent of Eket Prisons, Ogomo Ibezamako, expressed gratitude to the governor's wife for her benevolence to the inmates of Eket Prisons.
And by your coming, our hope has not been dashed. We are most grateful to have you here.
Also on the trail of Mrs. Udom Emmanuel's visit was the motherless baby's home, Idonginang, where she donated cash and food items to the home. Mrs. Emmanuel thanked the matron of the home, Mrs. Tom Bush, for dedicating her life to taking care of the motherless, praying that God will reward her labor of love.
So Her Excellency, out of the love in our hearts, sent us here to represent her and to give this gift and to let you know that she's with you, and she will continue to extend that loving support to this group.
Mrs. Tom Bush thanked Mrs. Udom Emmanuel for her kind disposition towards the home, saying that our impact on the socially disadvantaged has already been felt.
Thank you so very much for sparing your time and also coming out with such wonderful gifts.
Governor Udom Emmanuel has promised to provide farmers in Akwa Ibom with credit facilities, equipment and infrastructure to increase food production and also improve farmers' standard of living. The governor made a promise at this year's World Food Day celebration in Uyo. The report is here presented.
Represented by the Commissioner for Lands and Town Planning, Prince Uwemi Taito, Governor Emmanuel described farmers as the major drivers of food security who should be assisted to provide more food. He vowed that government will spare no efforts at improving the well-being of the people and transforming farmers from subsistence practice to commercial level of operation. Governor Emmanuel said credit facilities have already been released to small and medium-scale business owners alongside market women, with investors indicating interest in agricultural sector to diversify the economy of the states. Mr. Emmanuel said there was no going back in his plan to reduce the price of foodstuffs by 50% in line with the cardinal objective of his administration: food sufficiency, wealth creation, eradication and industrialization.
Social protection exists when government develops policies and programs to address economic, environmental, social vulnerability to food insecurity and poverty through cash transfer voucher, insurances, and in-kind contributions. This is in tandem with my administration's cardinal objective of wealth to job creation, poverty reduction, food sufficiency, economic inclusion, and industrialization.
The Commissioner for Agriculture and Natural Resources, Mr. Matthew Ekaite, commended the governor for demonstrating strong political will in transforming the agri sector by providing social protection for farmers to prevent hunger and break rural poverty. He said the farmers' markets declared opened by Governor Emmanuel at the State Secretariat in Uyo will be held every Friday for internal and interstate trade to revive production of foodstuffs and raw materials.
This is a way of breaking out from poverty. And the poverty we are referring to here is the poverty of living below $1 in a day. And the only way that can be achieved is to ensure that value is added to whatever a farmer produces. Farmers have also been empowered through the MSME's loan, and they are interest-free. Traders have been empowered.
At the event, the governor was registered alongside other government officials on the Farmers' National Database. The 2015 World Food Day, with the theme Social Protection and Agriculture, Cycle of Rural Poverty, also featured exhibition of farm produce, inputs and equipment.
Right, we take a short break. When we return, more news for you. Stay with us.
I believe in the collective power of you and I. Together, we can build upon existing legacies to birth the land of our dreams. Let us work as one. devoid of tribal sentiments and political differences.
Let's throw away violence
and embrace peace. Let us work with government to make Akwa Ibom an industrial hub, create employment for our youths, boost security, agriculture and healthcare. I am you, and you are me.
We are the future.
We can make a difference. Let's come together and embrace the new Akwa Ibom, an Akwa Ibom under the leadership of our governor, Mr. Udom Gabriel Emmanuel. For
we believe in Akwa Ibom.
Glad to have you back. The people of Okon clan in Eket local government area yesterday rolled out the drums to celebrate the appointment of their son, Dr. Dominic Inyahupong, into the Akwa Ibom State Executive Council as the Commissioner for Health. The reception, which took place at the government primary school Okon Eket, featured the rich Ibibio heritage of the people, as various cultural troops entertained those who gathered at the instance of the Okon Community Development Association. Although I can witness the ceremony I put together before the following report.
The reception, which was organized by the Okon Community Development Association in honor of the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Dominic Ukpong, and his wife Nelly, featured displays by Okon cultural groups including Abre, Okukum, Akata, Ekong, and Togoriodio. Speaking on behalf of the organizers, the president of the Okon Community Development Association, Dr. Fabian Ishet, described the reception as a celebration of hard work, commitment, excellence, consistent services and dedication, virtues exhibited by Dr. Dominic Ukpong while in the service of ExxonMobil. While commending the Akwa Ibom State government for embarking on the dualization of the Eket Etinan Uyo Road, the Okon people requested for urgent interventions in the upgrading of health facilities in Okon Eket, establishment of a magistrate court, construction of roads and bridges to link villages, among others.
Your appointment is quite commendable, exemplary, and in line with the times when the world is in constant search for men and women of integrity and impeccable probity.
The chairman of the Eket Local Government Transition Committee, Mr. Frank Achibon, the member representing Eket State constituency in the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Mr. David Udofa, Ntisong Esien Ekidem, Brigadier General Anthony Etugudo retired, Obongawan Akwawan, Professor Eti Ben Akban and others all affirmed that with the track record of Dr. Ukpong in mobile producing Nigeria, he would turn things around in the Ministry of Health.
And in honoring him, we must thank the state governor that found him worthy to be appointed to head the health ministry.
So there is no doubt that Dominic is going to make us proud because he's from the stock of great men and women.
Responding, the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Dominic Inyang Ukpong, assured Okon people that he would not disappoint their faith in his ability to do good. He also announced a scholarship package for Ms. Ubangabasi Ekwo, the JS1 student who had earlier mesmerized everyone with her recital of the Dakada Creed.
Today, I stand here amongst my people and I'm having honor unusual. So my people have made a clear statement that they have accepted me.
Gifts were also presented to Dr. Ukpong at the occasion. Udwakeko reporting.
Sustaining effective communication has been identified as a key component of diplomacy and administration. This was made known at the 2015 training and induction ceremony of the Institute of Public Diplomacy and Management, which held at the Governor's Office Annex, Uyo. Samuel Ayara reports that the Director General of Akwa Ibom Broadcasting Corporation, Pastor Anetu Ukpe, was inducted as a fellow of the Institute.
Welcoming inductees and guests to the event, the registrar of the Institute, Mr. Victor Osholomo, noted that culture rather than politics was responsible for the progress of any society. He described the theme of the event, effective communication within the ambit of diplomacy and administration, as apt, especially now that negotiation, mediation, and critical thinking have become most needed in the sustenance of national unity.
I'd like to say that the practice of diplomacy cannot be overemphasized, especially in the new Nigeria we are envisioning. Diplomacy evolved as a peaceful political instrument to solve conflicts among states seeking to develop good state and personal relations.
In his remark, the chairman on the occasion, Senator Emmanuel Ibawesian, was represented by Mr. Godwin Okpon, charged inductees and members of the Institute to sustain the ideals of the body and take the message of diplomacy beyond the organization.
I want to encourage you who are present here to relax, open up, for the lecturers are ready, and we are going to have a full of what they have in store for us.
Conferring the Institute's Fellowship Award, the Institute called on recipients to view diplomacy as a means of overcoming. The awardees were also reminded to mitigate on expensive bureaucratic processes, which has been the bane of poor administration, by ensuring goods and services are transferred in a mutually beneficial manner at minimal cost. Those conferred with the Fellowship Award include the Director General, AKBC Pastor Enete Ukwe, Dean Faculty of Law, University of Uyo, Professor Enefi Okesien, Manda Lawrence, Berewari Choma Obong, Bishop Abasiodion George, and Usoro Emmanuel Okon. Responding on behalf of recipients, the Director General, AKBC Pastor Enete Ukwe, thanked the Institute for its proactive role in enhancing peace and conflict resolution through diplomacy and tactful managerial skills, while advancing the importance of the Institute to national peace and good governance. Pastor Ukwe described diplomacy and management as twin paradigm in changing the African narrative.
I express the appreciation of every person who has been so honored on this august occasion. I also want to say that I believe that there is nothing wrong with Nigeria that what is right with Nigeria cannot fix. I believe that you have invited us today by this investigator to join you in this project in redefining Africa and changing the story of Africa.
Others were also inducted into senior, full-time, associate and graduate membership cadre of the Institute. Papers were also presented at the event. Samuel Ayara reporting.
8 persons have been arrested for refusing to revert to federal government stipulated pump price of 87 naira per litre of petrol, despite the agreement reached between the State Petroleum Product Monitoring Committee and Petroleum Tanker Drivers Unit of the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas in Uyo yesterday. Our correspondent reports that the defaulters were arrested at some filling stations in Uyo Metropolis during an inspection led by the chairman of the committee, Obong SNSMA. The report is presented in our studios.
Following the directive by Governor Udom Emmanuel to the State Petroleum Products Monitoring Committee, PPMC, to enter into discussions with Petroleum Tanker Drivers, PTD, which withdrew their services a week ago, thereby plunging the state into fuel crisis, an agreement was reached Saturday afternoon for the situation to return to normalcy. Despite this effort, some petroleum dealers refused to revert to the 87 naira per litre pump price. This compelled the Obon Esema-led PPMC to lead monitors out, and it was discovered that while some marketers sold petrol between 100 and 120 naira per litre, some were hoarding the product, while others resorted to under-dispensing, thereby shortchanging unsuspecting members of the public. At the stations visited, when every effort to make pump attendants revert to the government-approved pump price failed, policemen attached to the committee had to effect arrests for prosecution for economic sabotage. The exercise took the committee to field stations along Oron Road, Akaitinan, Akar Road, and Nudo. At some of the stations, pump attendants took to their heels on citing members of the committee, while others locked themselves in and shut down their pumps. Some of the stations were sealed off, with the owners directed to report to the PPMC. The chairman of the Petroleum Products Monitoring Committee, Obon Esema, frowned at the attitude of some marketers who, at the slightest opportunity, increased the price of petroleum products, thereby causing the people of the state untold economic hardship. He explained that the problem stemmed from a disagreement between tanker drivers and officials of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, which prompted government to wade into the matter, but wondered why marketers should desire that the fuel crisis lingers even when the issues have been resolved.
We have resolved the matter. The federal government has no intention to increase or decrease or remove subsidy oil, but situations where people refuse to revert back, we have to arrest the persons operating the stations, and we are taking them to court.
Yesterday was the third Sunday in the month of October 2015, and as usual, Christians the world over gathered in their different worship centers to thank God for His mercies on them. In Uyo, members of the Apostolic Church Itiam district gathered at their headquarters to do what they know best: worship God in His holiness. They sang, danced, and offered to God in appreciation of His benevolence on them, Akwa Ibom State, and Nigeria generally. The district pastor Deme Charles, preaching on the theme, "A generous giver reaps bountifully," urged members to cultivate the spirit of giving and being the brother's keeper so as to reap bountiful reward from God. Quoting other biblical portions to support his text, Pastor Deme Charles asked the faithful to learn to share in the problems of others, regardless of religious sects, and contribute in the provision of a befitting place of worship wherever they find themselves. Be reminded that you can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org, or you can follow us on Twitter at AKBC45 or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. That's the news, but before we go, another look at the top stories. Governor Udom Emmanuel has announced that henceforth appointment of permanent secretaries in the state civil service will be based on competence and devoid of ethnic considerations or local government quota. We also brought you a report that 8 petroleum product marketers have been arrested for pump price violation and product hoarding by the Petroleum Product Monitoring. That was the news. Thanks for watching, and do have a blessed day. Good morning.